This week's episode is brought to you by Jonah Hill's audition for the Crow reboot.
I've got a crow. I'm just the cleverest fella 'twas ever my fortune to.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Podcast Assemble, the show where you come for your rambling geeky download. My name's Tommy, and I am delighted, as always, to be joined by my friend and co-host from across the pond. It's our resident re-returning anti-hero of the pod, DL!
Re-returning anti-hero. That's like
of the pod.
Two negatives. That means that's a positive. That means I'm
net.
I'm a positive. I'm a hero.
You are a hero.
Yes.
Wait, re-returning. It just means you're returning again.
Negative plus a negative equals a positive. I learned this somewhere.
Okay.
I learned this
It's good.
somewhere.
I'm glad you're back.
Yeah.
Back once again as the Renegade Master himself.
I'm definitely that with a weird accent as well.
with a very undistinguishable accent.
It plays though.
Oh,
I couldn't tell if he could have just been an immigrant.
We're obviously just kicking off our conversation about the Crow 2024, which, you know what? I've got a funny thing about this. I think they created a new music genre just for this film.
I love this. I love that. I jammed on this Spotify playlist.
I liked it too.
Yeah.
But do you know how in the early 2000s we had new metal? I think this is new emo. So they've kind of gone they've taken a bunch of cool, quirky new artists and paired them with emo people. So the first track on the album for The Crow is it's Post Malone and Ozzy Osbourne. I'm
Sick,
what
dude.
is happening?
That's all I needed. That's the collab I needed.
It's a good song as well.
Yeah.
I mean,
but how old is Ozzy? Can he
he's old now.
It's not a new track. They've just subbed him over.
I actually don't know. It's a very good question.
I mean, you would know.
You would know.
If it was him at 80, just being
he's still doing stuff though.
What is
he's
his
still
main thing that he did?
He recently did an advert for something.
Is that him?
No,
what is he?
That's not him. He did Crazy Train when he was with Black. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's him back in the day. But then the main thing I think he's probably known for now is the Osbournes TV show.
What a fucking cooked family!
What a
that was.
wild show that was.
Poor guy, he was addicted to Oxycontin in the sun.
Oh, was he?
It's actually quite a sad story.
Oh, I know nothing about that. But look, we're getting ahead of ourselves. How are you, my man?
I'm good, dude. I'm good.
What's been happening? You lost anything else in the apartment recently?
Yeah, the bed frame, but that was overdue. Now we're just a mattress on the floor.
You literally live in the squatting holes that everyone in the Crow lives in.
We actually made a bunch of money. We're gonna pay for our deposit, which is pretty awesome. For how you have to do a bond when you rent. Yeah. So that's good. But I lost the car, which I don't know if I talked about that last week, but
I don't think you did. It was the coffee machine last time.
This time,
so many things are leaving.
This time was the car. And I came out. I was like, I'll be there in 10 when I texted you for the pod. And then I walked outside to the empty car space and was like, oh, I forgot.
Oh.
Maybe I'll be there in 30. Got to take public transit, bud. Sorry. I'm a plebe. So yeah, there's things that are leaving. And I think, we might actually not sell the TV. We might
keep the TV, man. You've been trying to keep that. I want you to keep it.
We'll see now that I have this.
Well, I'd say you can leave it here, but we're not going to
be
be here for much longer either.
I might just ship it. It's
it's quite expensive to ship, but
if you don't, we'll see what happens.
I like that.
Yeah.
So for anyone who doesn't know, my beloved co-host is moving across the pond to the UK in another weekend or so. So there's potential this might be the last episode we have here, or maybe the same last episode.
We'll try. Maybe we'll try and squeeze.
Either way, it's going to be one of the last episodes we do in this apartment because I'm not going to be here much longer either.
There'll be a couple ponds next.
So there's going to be ponds. So it's going to be a little bit of an odd schedule over the next couple of maybe month or so, maybe 6 weeks. I've got a few friends of the show who are going to be joining us. We're very excited about that. Some exciting ones that I haven't quite mentioned yet on the podcast before, so they're going to be coming. That's going to be fun. But so we're going to give you a little bit of time, and it's going to be just a little broken up potentially. So don't worry, we're still here. We're not going anywhere, except Dre will be doing it virtually.
Probably, yeah.
I don't love that. I love being in the room with you.
We'll have to figure something out.
Yeah, I mean, in the room's the best way to do it, but you got to do what you got to do. We got to catch up. That was the point of this podcast.
But there's a way to do it on Zoom.
Zoom.
Like a Zoom license.
Yeah, but it's never as good. The quality is never as good. You need the microphone.
Yeah, but I think you could set up your microphone into Zoom if you paid for it. Anyway, this is not.
You think I want to pay for another thing?
This is not great podcasting. It's not. Chat.
Cut as much of this as you want, Matt. Yeah. But anyway, guys, if you want to stick around, listen to us chat about our weeks, DL losing all of his shit and not being able to having to be on public transport, please feel free. There will be time codes in the description, as always, supplied by friend of the show and editing genius, Mr. Matthew Bliss at blissery.fm. And while you're there, if you could, I guess you'll be looking at your phone right now thinking, should I change this podcast? These guys are idiots. But while you're there, just before you switch off, could you give us a 5-star review? That would really help us with algorithms and stuff that we don't truly understand. DL, what have you been up to, buddy?
This week, man, we have been watching the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes halfway through. I'm enjoying it so far.
The new one?
Yeah.
Oh, so you like it? We liked it, I think.
So far, you said you didn't like it.
I think I didn't like Freya What's-Her-Chops in it.
So far, she's like kind of whatever.
She's barely in it.
Yeah, but the CGI is pretty fucking crazy, dude. Because they're in the sun now, like all the time. And I'm like, the other one was like, San Francisco depressive weather. Now they're on like a beach.
Kind of liked it in the snow, though. I thought it was fun. Now they're having apes on holiday.
Yeah, no, I like it so far. Like it's an interesting concept.
Weekend at Caesars.
You're basically you're basically watching like how over time like a societies can like manipulate a message and change a message and like you're almost like the apes are like in their middle ages.
I really like that.
It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm only halfway done, but and then the majority of what I want to talk about this week is the rewatch of Rings of Power is over.
Oh, it's done.
It's over. The new episode, I think, is out either today or a few days ago.
A friend of the show, Joe, was messaging us during the week asking if we were going to be picking it up because he is flying away to have a little vacation. And he was like, I need to download it right now. And I don't think he was out until the day after. So he's going to.
Yeah, it looks so sick based off the trailer. And I'm ready to give my thoughts.
Well, I read a preview of this, and it was sort of saying that this new season's sort of more mature and gets darker in its themes. And I'm down for that. The dark bits are the bits that I've enjoyed thus far. I'm either halfway through the 4th episode or I've seen the 4th episode. My partner walked in while I was watching it and she did not watch it. So I had to leave it for that exact moment.
Well, I guess like what I'll say, I'll give you without spoiling things. Going into this new season, I'll give my biggest complaints about the first and my biggest wins. Not for me. So my biggest complaints, I think, would be like way too much going on in this Numenor storyline, which you're probably somewhat familiar with.
Oh my God, point. That's still in Numenor.
Well, you were number 4. You're on number 4. I think they've gotten there by then.
So they've just arrived in Numenor. They're like the first things happened in Numenor. So who's the elf? I've got an elf's name now. Gladriel's there with that
like
dude,
the captain, and then there's like the queen.
Is she still there?
No, I'm just no. Like I'll not spoiling it. My point is, over the course of the next 2 or 3 episodes, there's a lot of time spent there with varying characters. And it's just like, I'm really not excited about too many of the characters, and they're all kind of half-baked. Like, to make it better, you'd really need to, like, cut some of you'll see there's a lot of characters jangling around in that storyline.
Okay.
Cut some of them and make me understand a bit more about why Numenor is important. Like, they barely touch on it.
The Ron Swanson-looking dude with the big beard.
He's probably the best part.
He's an interesting dude. I'm cool for him.
A Welsh actor, I think.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. And
I just assumed it was Ron Swanson's brother.
It kind of looks like
it looks just the same.
He needs a grooming session.
The Queen I'm less interested in. I feel like there's got to be more interesting stuff with that king who they've siloed in his little prison.
That's my point. There's like 3 characters there that they could have just kept it there with like maybe one other one with Isildur. They expand it to like 8, and none of them get like a lot of time. And you're just kind of like, they're all kind of half baked. And then you're like, wait, I don't really understand why do they hate the elves? Like that's a pretty big important thing to understand, and they never really dive into it. So,
well, that's one thing I thought was going to come out of this, because I assumed it would deep dive that, but
it touched on it, but it's not really understood. And then
actually, that seems not dissimilar to the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes stuff, where it's just sort of misinformation over time, dissolving relationships.
Yeah, but I'd like to understand like what the real justification.
Yeah, who saw,
and they do touch on it. It's like I think it's just pride.
Yes, okay.
It's like because these humans are like they live longer. They're kind of like the iodine or whatever, like Aragorn. Like he's a descendant of these guys.
Ah, okay.
Long distant way. Or the Dunedain or whatever the fuck they call it.
Okay.
So these guys live for like thousands of years. Okay. They're not like elves. So like there's pride of that, I'm sure. Anyway, point being, kind of missed there. Biggest hits, they hit the highs of the ominous and hopeful tones are just like the best, like, and really well built up. And in a world of TV that's like super, super grim all the time.
Really poor TV right now. I watched a really good YouTube video, by the way, about the streaming service. You go, I'll find it. You keep talking.
I just mean like, it's all like epic scale drama that's grim and Machiavellian. And this is more like tonally like about joy and overcoming evil, which is like kind of refreshing in this world of like drama that's all about like, what's the one, the Succession, Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon.
I watched a really the YouTube video is called How Streaming Destroyed TV by Adam Conover. He's really interesting, actually. He's actually an actor himself, and he's doing his YouTube bits, and this one is about like Netflix's original sort of purpose and how it was to effectively monopolize TV, and how they're now getting to that, but that hasn't helped because all the shows they make are done by algorithm, and it's becoming completely bland and beige, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, but there'll be pushback against that.
Well, I mean, like the whole point of it is that
yeah.
the original TV model was that like the bigger things like HBO could be subsidized by, for example, the ads on the other channels they own. So that was being subsidized that way. But when you get rid of all those ads and you get rid of those channels, you lose out on the ability to make those actually good shows. It's really interesting. Really good one. I'll link it in the description.
Yeah. And then, so yeah, I think the highs of the ominous and joyful tones. And then I think the character work is done so well where all their arcs kind of peak for like, when you think about Elrond,
Wait,
Dorian.
they're all peaking?
They're all peaking.
They all smoking with Gandalf?
Or they're all pretty peaky. Like they're peaking in terms of their looks as you see them in later Jackson trilogy. They're all quite a bit older.
Jackson trilogy?
Yeah.
What's happening? Sorry, I see what you mean.
Particularly like Elrond, Dorian, Halbrand, Galadriel, the hobbits, the stranger, and the dwarfs in general. Those storylines are super powerful. Like they're arc, each character goes on an arc that peaks with a theme.
When they get together and smoke that fine South Farthing, man, it's so chill.
It fucks.
Slaps, baby.
And then I would just say beyond that, like despite being a prequel, where you're pretty informed on where the path is going, they still manage to create a lot of drama and mystery, which is like the balancing act of a prequel. With obvious respect to like the text and the Jackson trilogy, and I really love the score.
The Jackson 5. The Jackson 5
Jackson 5, great.
That's cool. How did they bring Michael back?
The child abuse. Yeah. But
so you recommend clearly?
Review. Highly recommend.
Yeah, okay.
Highly recommend.
Like I say,
can't wait to watch the new one.
I'm 4 in. I am more or less enjoying it. I do think I think I text you this rather than actually talking about it. The episodes are just too long for me. Like they just go on a bit.
I just can't imagine how you can say like you want to watch, you love the extended edition, but you want shorter Lord of the Rings show. Like this is just a part of the medium for this content.
I just think there's certain storylines that at the point I'm at are either not making enough sense or they're just too drawn out. And I'm like, there are scenes that you could have cut here.
That's a fair critique. That I would agree, especially like in the Southlands and in Numenor.
Yeah, Numenor.
It's a totally fair critique.
I've only been there 2 days, and actually the first 2 days, I've only been there an episode and a half.
Feels like 2 days.
Yeah, Jesus, it really does. And actually, it's been quite exciting, but you can tell that some of the scenes are just that bit longer than they necessarily need to be. It's quite cool when I'm super early. So the guy who's on the ship with Galadriel, who sort of saves her.
He's an Aussie. I love that actor.
I mean the one who saves her in the first place.
Yeah.
Who I think is going to be Aragorn's ancestor.
Because his son is Isildur, the guy that doesn't throw the ring.
That's right. Yeah. So that character has like a fight scene in the streets and just kicks the crap out of like 6 guys on his own, and he just has this like inner violence in him, and I'm like, I want to see that explode.
I think you're actually mixing. I think that's the guy that's on the raft with her.
That's what I mean. The guy on the raft. Yeah. That's the guy I'm talking about.
He's awesome. No, we don't know who he is. He's just a nobody. And anyway, point being,
well, I thought he was the one who was Isildur's
father. The guy that picks them up in the boat, them both up in the boat, is Isildur's father.
I must have just mixed up the names.
But anyway, I love that actor. He's Aussie. He's cool. Melbourne.
He's cool.
Yeah,
there's a lot of crossover between the Game of Thrones series actors and this.
Yeah,
right?
With Elrond and who else?
Well, you talked about the guy who plays Benjen Stark.
Yeah, him too. Yeah, he's great.
There's a few, I think. Yeah. There's a few, and I imagine there'll be a few more. But
look, lots of good rewatch value too. It's a lot of foreshadowing.
Okay, yeah. I'll get into it. We did a couple of things this week. I'll tell you about. The first one I'm definitely not going to recommend. It was the Partners No Veto weekend a couple of weekends ago. Yeah. And we watched a Ryan Reynolds film from about 2012. So this is right in the period where he was sort of doing everything.
Rom-com and
not doing anything. Yeah. This one was called Selfless. So self/less.
Got it.
Right? Not just selfless.
Yeah.
Self/less.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bit hard to say.
You get it. Yeah. Self/less. No,
self/less.
Just say it quick. It's fine.
I can't actually say
it's absolutely fine. And it's Ryan Reynolds. It's about 2015. So it's right in the peak of that area where he was sort of doing everything from like rom-coms through like weird action films, but nothing was really sticking. So he'd done his funny bit at the beginning, and done the Van Wilders and whatnot, and now he's in this sort of like, where do you fit kind of era. And this one is very much a where do you fit kind of era. I can't recommend this, unfortunately, but it does have a couple of good people in it. It's got Ben Kingsley in it. Obviously got Ryan Reynolds. And the kind of vague plot of this is that Ben Kingsley is this old property mogul who's effectively dying of some indescript disease, whatever it is. And the point is, he's slipped a card on the table, weirdly like Deadpool, actually, giving him a second chance. And what happens is he gets his brain transferred into this younger body. So, like, it's supposed to be grown in a lab. That's what they tell him. And it's supposed to be all ethical and whatnot.
Gross.
And really, obviously, the point of the film is that they've just paid someone to use their body.
Yeah.
And Ryan Reynolds' memories start coming back, and et cetera, et cetera. It's a whole thing, and it's a bit
drama,
cliche.
Is it like
it's an action. It's an action.
Sounds like a terrible
thriller.
Action. Sounds like a really
thriller.
Bad. Sounds like a really bad.
Well, what happens is he starts remembering Ryan Reynolds' memories, so he starts going back and tracking down like the places that he remembers. Like it's really funny. He like Googles
cheesy memento.
He Googles like cornfield and windmill, and it comes up with like the exact image of where he needs to go, and I'm like, come on, dude, like that's not how Google works. So he goes to this spot and he finds what was Ryan Reynolds' old life. It's like it's a thing, and it was action, and it was silly for a Sunday. But the thing I do want to talk about, you probably know about this, DL. There is currently, I think it's out now, or it's out in the next couple of days. Actually, it's definitely out now. A new Terminator anime on Netflix, and I'm super excited to watch it. Now, a couple of weeks ago when I was on with Riggs, we talked about we'd watched the Terminator 1 film, so The Terminator.
Yeah.
Me and the partner sat down and we watched Terminator 2 Judgment Day. My God, that movie is still so freaking good. I'm just obsessed with it. It's amazing. Like, it's one of my all-time favorite films. We've talked many times about when I was young, we had like a bunch of VHSs, likes of Indiana Jones, Star Wars. This was one of them. So I would watch this so freaking regularly. Terminator, I was way too young to be watching this film as well. I'm talking like 8. Like 8 to be watching Terminator 2 is young. And the T-1000, so that's Patrick Harris's character, the molten metal one who just like turns into different people. I absolutely adore that film. Do you have good memories of that?
I vaguely remember it. He turns into like a blob of metal.
Oh my God, you don't remember?
Is that the one where like the truck flips over?
It's the best one. Yeah.
I
mean, the truck flips in, I think, both of them, but yeah.
I mean, they're both really good. I rememmer the first and second one.
The Hasta La Vista Baby?
Is that the one where he like falls into the metal at the end?
Yeah, so
spoilers.
Arnold from this film from 1991. The Terminator realizes that there's still a chip left in him after they defeat the molten metal one, and
so he's like the only way to stop.
But he can't self-destruct, so they have to lower him down. John and Sarah do. So like this is like peak Terminator they've been trying to get back to for so many years now. There's been like 4 or 5 rebootuations since then.
I think it's like so you can only do so much with one plot, you know?
Right. And it's a self-repeating plot. I actually really liked what they did with Dark Fate, where they actually killed off John Connor super early. Again, spoilers for that film. They killed off John Connor super early, and it became a different person who was the leader in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to then support her instead of like the expected leader. I thought it was pretty cool. I liked that.
Yeah.
They brought back some of the original cast. So, look, for me, Terminator 2 is the absolute pinnacle of the series. Terminator 1, I'd forgotten how much of a horror movie it was. Like, Terminator 1 it's a horror movie.
Yeah, I don't really remember the details of all of them. I saw them so young.
You need to go back.
That I was like a kid, you know.
We'll put Terminator 2 on one of our many lists, which we'll be coming back to, because we have so many.
I love the haircuts.
Oh, so good.
Such good bangs.
So good.
Such good curtains.
Well, there's a fantastic moment in the first Terminator film, and I had never noticed it properly until I actually rewatched it, and I was talking to Riggs about it. Arnie's Terminator, he has like these long flowing locks when he first comes back.
Yeah.
And he jumps through like I think he's on a bike, and he jumps through like fire, and he comes out the other side. And I always thought it was like a weird choice that they'd like trimmed his hair right down and made him a bit melty.
Yeah.
But what had actually happened was when he jumps through the fire, obviously like shears off half his hair because he's like gone through fire. Yeah. And I'm like, holy shit. You never noticed that when you were as young as I was. So like, yeah, some of the claymation stuff doesn't quite hold up in 2024 for the first one, but they are just pinnacle movies for me, man. Absolute pinnacle. Guys, if there's anything that you recommend we talk about, hit us up. We're at Podcast Assemble or thepodcastassemble@gmail.com. You can also find us on our website, www.podcastassemble.com. All of our stuff's there. Everything you need is there. We're on YouTube, all that stuff. Send us memes, send us news, send us reviews. All the stuff we love. DL.
Yes.
Do you want to preface our main topic this week and why?
It's the main topic theme.
This week, we are doing The Crow, 2024, from Rupert Sanders. He's Got a Type, Ghost in the Shell. He did a recut of Snow White and the Huntsman. Kind of like these weird stylized
reimaginings.
Takes. Yeah, reimagining. Ghost in the Shell is like an anime.
Yeah.
It is I think it is a Re-Bootuation.
I think it's more of a reimagining. I feel like it's sort of like it's still the same character. Taken it. It's still the Eric Draven character from the original.
Is that his name?
Yes, funnily enough, it is.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Eric.
I don't think they even like talk about it much. Like,
they say Eric enough times for you to realize. But
I did not.
You're absolutely right, and I think we did the 1994 adaptation a little bit. Actually, it was while we were away for your fantastic wedding. So, and as I talked about then, it's one of my dad's all-time favorite films. It's kind of like a cult classic by this point. And yeah, we came back. We wanted to come back to it, finish the story we started.
Yeah. wanted, needed.
That's right. We did.
to.
We're going to do non-spoilers and spoilers. But to start with, DL, do you have a stupid plot summary?
I always do. Bill
Bringing the heat, baby.
Bill Skarsgård proves 3 things in The Crow Re-Bootuation. That size doesn't mean everything when it comes to samurai swords. Falafel is a great spirit guide, and score and vibes can still go a long way.
I like what you did there.
That's my take.
Mine is, this ain't your grandpappy's The Crow, as new metal meets homeless chic to deliver a surprising reimagining.
Yeah, I was going to say heroin chic. But...
Yeah, kids, I mean, little column A, little column B. So yeah, as you mentioned, Bill Skarsgård's in this. We have FKA Twigs as Shelley.
You know who that is. You know, your standard Twigs.
I mean, that's a stage name, right? But
yeah.
Twigs?
Twiggy the rapper. The dancer. I mean, even Twiggy for dancing, if she is a dancer, is a pretty odd name. Because you want, like, tree trunks if you're a dancer. You don't want twigs.
I mean, who knows? It depends on what you're dancing for.
I mean,
if you're part of the ballet, you probably want twigs.
Sounds breakable on those toes.
This has Danny Hudson as well. He's the bad guy. He's Vincent Roeg, who you will know from X-Men Origins Wolverine. He's in Wonder Woman. I actually recognize the dude from 30 Days of Night. Do you remember that film? Josh Hartnett?
Is it
it's a vampire film.
movie?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
I
think it's on my list because I was like, I want to watch a good vampire movie. And I was like, what are the best ones? And this one came up as like a pretty good one.
Yeah. I wouldn't say it's one of the best. It's good though.
But it's like a modern, it's like a 90s movie.
Yeah, it's early 2000s. It's a more modern take. And I just wanted to throw a mention out here to Sami Bujila, who he plays Kronos, who's a god of time, as you know from Greek mythology, but he's in this. He's in this, and he certainly does things in this movie with his accent.
He does. You know, comes at interesting times. Makes me crave the idea of like a nice little fluff. Like I just imagine him on the street corner of New York slanging fluff.
You said that to me. I
don't even remember what I said.
And all I could think about was that scene in Batman where he's like,
yeah.
You know, that
was what I was thinking.
The bad police guy takes his money. Is like, you kids don't like falafel.
Yeah, that's literally what I was thinking of. Because it was like similar vibes. It was like super Gotham vibes. And he's like, he goes back to this bridge. I'm like, he just goes here every time he wants a falafel because he knows he can get.
Right.
Because this like mentor figure is like such a bad casting.
Well, we're going to talk about it. I think there's some pretty awkward casting in this. For a movie, the Chrome reboot, I really thought there'd be goofy IMDb pitches in this. But for annoyingly, there are none. I was like, we can't just be throwing mean things out here. So we're going to stick with Peter McKenzie. And I'm just upset that the Crow reboot doesn't have more weird, goofy IMDb pictures. It annoys me.
One I found, like some guy in like Roman architecture, but maybe that's...
Yes, I thought that. But I mean, that's...
Carol Dobry.
You normally throw them back at me and say like, oh, it's actually just a good picture of him. He's just in this...
Nah, I mean, maybe...
Typecast.
If he wants to be, Roman. Makes sense.
I usually start with like what worked for me in this movie, but I think at the time, my experience of it was quite visceral and I was quite thrilled by it because it's something I haven't seen in cinemas for a while in terms of the violence, but thinking back, it was pretty bare bones. There wasn't a lot to this film.
Yeah, it was boiled. It was like, if you take The Crow, they boiled it like
remove all the bits that are fun.
No, I don't know about that, but I would say like they boiled it down to its like most basic element.
Absolutely.
And that like I think has positives, but they missed out on some potential like by getting rid of some things, they missed out on some cool elements of it.
Absolutely. Sure. Definitely from the movie anyway. We're going to stay away from the comics and just talk literally about, try not too much to compare it to the 1994 movie because this is very much its own thing. It is a reimagining. It's only got very small elements of that looped in, like the name Eric Draven and such. It follows its own path, really. It's not. I mean,
it's
there's
not
like
the same
some
core. Like it's still a revenge story.
Yes,
it's still like a supernatural revenge story.
Agreed.
It changes a lot. Like the ending is very, very like,
and the bad guy,
and the mechanics of the bad guy,
and the fact that he's just not as luscious with his hair. He doesn't look like he's in a Timotei advert.
I loved the bad guy. I thought they just like didn't do
in this one.
They just didn't do enough to like make him like more than just this nameless.
I honestly didn't. He had no menace to him. Like
I thought he was creepy as all hell.
The moments when he was allowed to talk to people and he could do his little black magic things, I thought they were great.
Well, it was like obviously meant to be like sexually charged.
It was
like intentional.
This movie had so much odd sexual
which
energy,
I thought was good.
Okay,
I just didn't understand. No, I just mean like
Dre likes odd sexual energy.
It was just like creepy.
It
was like added to like the grossness of him and the vibe
100%,
and like what had happened. But it's more just like they cut out so much of the plot mechanics. Like, and I agree with doing some of that because that last one was so convoluted. It was like some big insurance fraud. That was what it was.
I mean, like at its core, right? It was the fact that it was like you say, it was a revenge movie. There were 4 dudes that the Crow was hunting down, and at the end, he realizes there is a bigger bad, so he goes to try and stop the evil in his town, which I've forgotten the name of, but was ridiculous. Hallow Eve, I think it was called.
I don't remember.
Ridiculous. But in this, it was just a case of, he's just going after this one dude, and other people are just there.
Well, I guess like there wasn't a lot of gum around, like and adhesive to like why these people were serving this guy.
Definitely.
Did they just like fear that they would be next? Like,
probably.
But like they didn't really give you enough there. That's my biggest complaint. But I do like the idea that like, because like when I was watching the original Crow, I'm like, why? This is pretty crazy to do all for insurance fraud of fires. And then like, why does he have a katana? Like, like there's just like odd things where it's like doesn't really make where now this is like kind of so supernatural that you're like, okay, there would be odd things.
They certainly lean into
sense,
supernatural elements, yeah.
But they didn't give the lot there for like a framework for like why this villain exists and like why people follow him.
Right. It is a bit schlocky, I'd say, in parts. It does function as like a hyper violent borderline horror movie.
Yeah, it's like Constantine meets John Wick.
Yeah. But not as good as either of those things. I say, well, I like Constantine. That's one of my like guilty pleasures.
I haven't seen Constantine in a while, but like, yeah, not as good as. But I honestly was not bored. I was entertained most of the movie.
Agreed, and that's usually like a good like barometer for these types of movies. It's getting a lot of shtick online, but like, I don't think there was a point when I wasn't like, like at least entertained.
I liked Skarsgård for some reason. I enjoyed it.
I don't know. His accents were just all over the place.
Like, it wasn't like, I don't know if he was trying
there was some bad
was he trying to be American?
I don't know what he was trying to be.
I think he just has an accent.
I just think I don't know what that accent was supposed to be. FKA Twigs as well, who will... did you buy their chemistry in this whirlwind romance?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did.
So the basic structure of this film...
doesn't feel like two people that would be making good decisions.
Sure.
That's my point. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the basic structure of this film, for sake's sake, is FKA Twigs,
who has chosen a new interesting hairstyle for the press.
Who has chosen a good for them, has effectively got some dirt on this evil bad guy.
Yes. And
to try and escape him goes to what's effectively a correctional facility.
But actually, like, turns out doesn't have dirt.
Yeah, she does. And what happens is she meets Bill Skarsgård's Eric. I've forgotten the name already. That's terrible. She meets Bill Skarsgård's Eric, and they have this whirlwind romance. And it lasts up until the bad guy's forces catch up to them, and then the Crow happens. Right? Yes. That's the film here, and that is. I mean, there's not much more to it than that. I mean, they go to Burning Man. It's effectively in a field.
It's like John Wick. Like they spent more time because they could. I guess that's the point. The Crow. They didn't have this opportunity because of the circumstances behind what's his death. But they spent more time building up the romance, I think.
Absolutely.
I thought she was going to be toast within 10 minutes. And she was still in the movie for like 30 minutes in.
So a thing I think about this movie is it's kind of brisk. Like, the interesting part to me was I was so expecting her to die. Like the first, the Crow 1994.
I liked that, though. I liked the
lovers. The Star Spangled Lovers, they die in the first scene of the movie. That's it. Whereas in this one, they give you time with them. You build this romance. I didn't fully believe it the whole time, but like I was kind of carried away with it. Like it was kind of like they were on the run as well, so they were never standing still. They were, like I say, doing Burning Man in a field. It was at least like giving you time with them to understand, there is some attraction here and whatnot. I never felt she was fully in it, but I think that's because she was keeping secrets, obviously. But then when you get past the middle part where the Crow happens, it's punchy, man. It doesn't hold it. It doesn't hold anything back.
It becomes like John Wick. It just moves straight through a revenge narrative.
You say that though. The last 2 John Wicks were so long.
No, but I'm talking about number 1.
Yeah,
it's like a very much like a clear. Hey, I'm here to go.
I love that you've gone with 2 different eras of Keanu Reeves there.
No, yeah,
you've gone with like young Keanu and now Keanu.
Yeah, intentional. What I would say though is like I like how he like the first sequence when he kind of discovers the Crow stuff, like he's discovering it and like he's really bad at fighting because he would be.
Yeah, I actually like that too.
And like he evolves to get like better and like more in tune with like how to handle this.
He does have a get good moment in the middle when he,
which like ties to his conviction around what he has to do and like his choice. But I didn't love like how and it might be a spoiler, so we'll save it for later. But I didn't love how like they kind of change in framework for like, I guess, how the plot moves forward with the revenge tale. We'll talk about it in
halfway through ish. Yeah. So when the Crow happens, you mean?
Yeah, the second part of when the Crow happens.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, so I tell you one thing that's really interesting about this. So this had been in development for a long time. that have been trying to make this reimagining for a while. Listen to some of these names that are attached to it. Bradley Cooper, Luke Evans, Jack Huston, Jason Momoa. Like, there's some big names. J-Mo was attached to it for a long time. He actually only dropped out a few weeks before primary shooting happened for this over creative differences.
So they'd recast.
Which he probably just drank too much Guinness and they wanted someone slimmer to do the movie.
No, I reckon it's probably like, he's like, he seems too bloody. I now am Aquaman.
More than likely. But like that, like who do you see as a very good
I think they nailed
trailer?
it. I think this is the kind of like creepy, kind of still attractive kind of dude
he's definitely got the creepy
to play this role. Like, he's creepy. He's also got like a little bit of like Riz, as the kids say these days. He's got some Riz. He might be a Rizzler.
We do not know what that means.
Yeah, well, the ketchup.
Oh, you do. You're younger than me by a couple of years.
Point being, he's got some swag to him,
He does.
but he is like
got that
this
homeless
broken emo chic.
Absolutely.
That I think they nailed the
He's
casting.
a mopey fucker.
If it wasn't for him, I probably would not have liked this movie.
I was thinking about this. I think a young Loki Tom Hiddleston would do really well as the Crow.
Yeah.
Like that, because he's got that
kind of what he
psychoticness
is,
to his
too.
eyes.
It's kind of what Skarsgård is. He's kind of got this creepy eye. Like,
He would be
he played
lither.
It.
Yeah, that's true.
Like,
He was jacked in this, man.
yeah,
he was really
he like kept
big in
getting
this.
bigger
Through the film.
Stop, dude.
I was like, how
Not
have
only are
your
you tall,
wings
you're
got
fucking ripped.
Unbelievable. So thinking of like the world building in this though, like I just felt like this was just a regular world. Like, the interesting thing that I found about the Crow original one, it was this weird Tim Burton messed up world where the police have like no jurisdiction, whereas it was just a sea. You know what I mean? There was nothing unique about it.
I felt like it was like a grungy, more Gotham-y
It was
city.
definitely
It wasn't
grungy.
as cartoony.
I just feel like it was a real portrayal of an American city.
I think it was like, I think it was more like less cartoony, more like almost Gotham, almost like Hell's Kitchen-y. Like,
yeah, right.
it was like less.
It was a middle ground.
Yeah, it just wasn't as like Tim Burton. But it's stylized. It was less stylized, but it was the same vibe. Like, you don't want to live here.
Yeah, you absolutely would not.
Yeah, like, you know what I mean? I didn't mind it. Like, I like the music.
I don't know. Like,
it was like
unless
a
you're
modernized version with the music. Like, it was like
Yes.
grimy music.
Agreed.
Like, I didn't mind. I just think they messed up a few things around, like, you know, plot points and like I don't love how they cut there was no police story.
Yes,
Like, it just became a bit too. I think overall boiling it down was good, but
Yes.
they cut too much.
I would say that as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And some of the cinematography in this is now almost a bit like stereotypical of like these types of reimaginings or, you know, Re-Bootuation type things. There was just nothing too original about it. And I think that's my kind of sort of key takeaway from this. There was some little homages from some of the transitions and whatnot, but it just didn't have the same sparkle to me.
Yeah, it was also I enjoyed it. I thought it wasn't original, but it's like a kind of a take and like a feeling and like a cinematography tone that is more like something from like the early Blade and Constantine era of like our youth.
Okay.
Than it is anything that's been made recently. So I know it's not original.
Yeah.
I just feel like it hasn't been done like this in a while.
Definitely
so it was
the violence.
refreshing.
Absolutely.
Like, it was refreshing in that way.
And I think that's how we both came out of the cinema.
Yeah.
We were both like, this isn't, I mean, I was like, that wasn't good, but it was interesting that they've tried this stylistic.
I enjoyed it more than the last movie.
I mean,
What did we saw last time? Was it the fucking Borderlands?
No, we watched Alien last time.
Alien was great. The one before
Borderlands.
that. I enjoyed it more than Borderlands. That's
Yeah.
the worst movie on Rotten Tomatoes. I
More
enjoyed it more than the average movie we go see, to be honest.
More like Snorterlands. Got him. There's not much to talk about in terms of the performances in this, I'd say, outside of the main couple. Like, there's a couple of other characters that you see a lot. There was that one creepy old dude.
And the creepy old dude that was like attractive, but also like creepy.
Had those weird eyes.
Yeah, like, but he was like one of the main guards for the main villain. And then there was the old, like the lady, but neither of them got enough, like it's kind of like either cut the lady and insert the cop storyline, or give me more with the lady, because I didn't really understand anything about her.
I feel like it was sort of trying to give you the impression that the main bad guy was just so evil that people were almost following him blindly. Yeah. They weren't, at that point, they were almost not sure why they were doing what they were doing.
They toyed with this concept of like he worms it, like almost like a dark ring,
yes.
like the Lord of the Rings. Like it worms your way into you, and you like your worst self comes out. But they'd never really committed to that.
And they never seemed to be doing anything that bad.
No, they just were like following orders.
They were just being told what to do. And they were probably just too scared.
Yeah, but like they should have explored that a bit more if they were going to toy with it.
I guess then that falls into, you know, we sometimes talk about that sort of theme of, you know, is acting and following orders without questioning them worse than actually, is that as bad
yeah.
as, you know, just dying for the cause?
It is, but there was no human element. There was no reason for me to understand why she was so desperate enough to do this.
Absolutely.
Like you need that human element where it's like where you can confuse it. Like, was it her choice? Was it the influence by the psychological, like crazy, supernatural, or was it the desperation in her situation? You need to play those things off each other. Otherwise it's boring. Yeah.
You need anything. Yeah. And I think the one thing I will call out is the thing I really loved about the first one. And I think we talked about this before we started was the four guys that Eric Draven is going after who killed him and his partner.
That's a miss. You're right. They didn't
like those key personalities made that movie tick. Like, and the way he killed them all with their own niche things. Like the one guy was a knife guy, so he killed him with 1,000 knives. The one guy was an addict, so he killed him with an overdose.
He overdosed him, yeah.
That made that movie tick for me, and it was those things that made it interesting and really unique.
Instead, you just got a big katana scene.
Yeah, and in this, you just got like a bunch of nameless goons. You're like,
but like they actually, the crazy part is they had like 2 or 3 of the characters. Like they intentionally highlighted the guy with the one eye.
Right.
They intentionally highlighted the creepy, good-looking but creepy guy.
Right.
And the woman, but they didn't give them enough distinction to go do something like that.
Yeah,
like they almost did it, but they didn't do it, and that's what's missing. I think.
Absolutely,
I agree. And I do think there's a police storyline where you like investigate the murders, and you're like, hey, what's going on here? And like that intersects with Skarsgård. And potentially like this video evidence and the friends, like there's a misplot like.
Oh, I feel like in this they try and loop the police in as just being like part of the bigger conspiracy.
It was his first kill,
and it wasn't that interesting.
Well, it was quick. It didn't do anything. Yeah,
didn't do anything. The other thing I will mention is the action is just gruesome,
brutal.
Yeah, it's no holds barred.
Yeah,
and once again, you forgot your cap.
A lot of blood. Yeah, caps on.
Caps on time. Like that was one of the things that kept it punchy for me. The fact
I
that
cringed away multiple times,
a lot, and there was like a full American History X scene. Like, you know what I mean? I was like, whoa.
That one I saw.
Yeah,
I'm sad I did. It was gnarly, dude. Yeah, God.
Yeah, I quite like the choreography in this too. Like some of the fight scenes were actually pretty well done. It looked kind of real and kind of visceral, and I guess that kind of carried the movie along a lot. The fact it was so visceral, and you were kind of holy shit. But then I was watching it and I was like conflicted in the moment because I was like, he can't die. So what's happening here? Like there's no threat to him.
But I liked how
there's no stake.
We haven't talked about the score, which is we did a bit. It's awesome.
It is good.
I liked how they made that whole fight scene crescendo with the opera, but it was it was a bit much. Okay. It got like to the point where it was like, okay, this is like too, for me, some people love that, like it was very John Wick.
It was. Yeah. And I quite liked that scene because it was interesting. You have the juxtaposition of that sort of heavy metalness of him doing this almost balletic fight scene where he's getting the shit kicked out of him but also killing all these dudes versus the actual ballet.
Yeah, and
but then the way it ended with him throwing the heads into the crowd, I felt was
gratuitous.
Overkill.
Yeah,
totally
it
necessary.
Didn't make sense either for his character.
Yes.
There was nothing about that made sense.
And that's one of the things, some of the character choices I go a bit like flip and flop on. I'm like, would he really do that? I know he really likes water, so why didn't he go and have a little swim or something after that?
Or just buy a falafel. Chill out.
Let's do choice of the team so we get into spoilers.
Yeah.
What do you got? Love conquers all? When love conquers all.
I actually didn't think about the tones and themes in this one. It kind of, it feels there's obviously a theme of like, your sins will catch up with you.
Yeah.
But for him, it's kind of just like saying like, there's like a theme of like love purely and always, but like kind of a negative theme of like revenge is sound, dude. like because of the ending, like they kind of like imply like,
I guess he sort of gets a comeuppance-ish,
but he gets what he wants. I don't know. To me, it was a confusing ending.
Yeah,
in that way,
it was a little bit. Do you have any 3 best and 3 worst?
I do. Skarsgård, I really liked him as a casting. I didn't mind the accent. I thought he was just like, because it's like not clear where this is set. Who cares what the accent is? The tone, soundtrack, and overall vibes. No Kid.
Yes.
Huge.
Okay, I'm stealing that one. That's one of mine now as well. The No Kid and voiceover.
Missing the hot dog. In
Thank
fact,
God.
I kind of am very hungry and would love a New York dog right now. Extra mustard, some caramelized onions. Ooh, maybe I'll find that after this. But point being, no hot dog, no kid. We'll take
no Ernie Hudson.
We'll take the wins, with the losses.
I'm stealing that one. That's a very good one. I'm with you on the soundtrack. The soundtrack was pretty great. I actually listened to it when I left the cinema. I was like, I'm down to have a little listen back to that soundtrack. Yeah. And I just had like that it just did not hold its punches. Yeah. Like it was visceral at times.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you often draw your crushes naked? and then post it on the wall for them to see.
What do you think that blue thing is on the wall? Do you not see my partner
You're a
in that?
terrible artist.
It's abstract. What can I say? That was
just like,
I mean, it was
posted on the wall.
certainly.
It was certainly well drawn.
I don't know what that was trying to give you about his character, but it was certainly something.
I mean, I think it was like to show like he's like vulnerable, emotional, artistic, and like kind of a bit weird.
Oh yeah,
Like, and
I got all that.
It did all that.
Yeah.
It did all that.
And
Also,
what-
like how it was pretty easy to break out of rehab.
Yeah, so
Like
easy.
he knew the whole time.
He had a bloody shank ready to go. I was
Yeah.
like, mate, come on.
Well, it's just like, oh yeah, I know where to go. Let's do it. Like, what have you been waiting for? This place is kind of weird. You're all in pink
It sucks.
close.
And everyone beats you up all the
Yeah,
time.
like why are you
sucks.
hanging out?
Maybe he just didn't have any money or anything. Maybe he didn't know what to
Man,
do.
well, I think the point is he's like, what else am I going to do? Might as
True.
well be here.
Yeah.
I have nothing to live for. Find something to live for. They kill her, and then he has to go on a revenge story.
All right, you're
They
getting
killed
into
the-
spoilers, man. Come on, tell me what your worst are.
Killed the beagle.
They killed a beagle.
Anyway,
Wait, the beagle?
you get it. They killed his beagle,
No, I don't get it.
John Wick.
All right.
Oh
Oh my god, that took way too long. I'm so confused.
My worst. I'm not sure about the random twist, which we can talk about. What it happens in the middle and kind of the end, kind of cheesy. I don't know how I feel about it. I'm kind of conflicted. Part of me thinks the simplified story improves the movie, and I think overall it does. But also they boiled it down too much,
Yeah.
and they missed some substance.
I agree with that.
And
That's
the
one of
lady
mine.
villain didn't really work for me as a side story because I needed more,
I needed anything.
really something more than just I'm depressed.
I'm with you. I've got the boiled down narrative. I don't
Yeah.
think that helped the movie. I'm conflicted. I don't think it helped the movie, but it helped the pacing. Certainly, I didn't think we needed as much of the love story at the beginning. Like
Oh, really?
It
I
went
liked
on-
that.
it went on for a long time. It
I
was
liked it.
half the movie.
Yeah,
I didn't really need that.
taking Molly and
Yeah.
fucking.
Yeah, that was like.
I was kind of like vibes, dude.
I was like,
good for you guys.
this director really wants us to see, Twiggy and Billy hooking up. Like this is like a big deal for him. So yeah, some of the casting didn't love some of the casting. I was liked Bill Skarsgård's accent was bad. There were times when the chemistry wasn't great, and just finally that the stakes didn't really feel as viscerally personal as the first one.
Fair.
It's hard not to compare them, even though we tried our best not to, but it really just didn't. Okay, tell me then, DL.
Yeah.
Can you guess for me that you already know the IMDb score out of 10?
4.7.
It is
Wow,
4.7.
I nailed it.
Oh my god. But can you guess for me the Rotten Tomatoes score?
Feels like it might be a 39.
21. People really are not enjoying this film.
Interesting that I don't feel that. Like usually I'm pretty aligned with the people on these bad movies.
The people. Man of the people,
yeah, I'm
DL.
a plebeian.
Burrito King himself.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of democracy. Love Athens, great city. The
Uh.
point being, I think this is getting a little bit of a hard.
I think it's
hard
getting a
knock.
hard go. I don't think it's good, but I don't think it's that bad.
I just don't think the original was that good. And
It's
so like
got
I think
great
most of these
cult
people are
status.
just like loving that so much that they're like hating on this.
It was
But
just so unique, the first one. I don't remember anything like that. But can you guess me the letterbox, which is always 3.6, but never 3.6?
2-4.
Oh, it's 2.3. I thought you had it. So close. It's really getting kicked right now. That's all user reviews, so not great.
Users
So
don't like it.
what we do now is we talk about our rating system, which is this better or worse than the most average movie out there, which is Aquaman 2018, and why the internet's binary, and so is our ratings.
I think it's better because I did not fall asleep. Or could I have?
It
Too
was
much-
a lot.
Too much going on.
It was a lot.
It went from like fully like, MDMA binge sex trumps to katanas
Murder
through the
capital,
face.
yeah.
Like, it was
In the face.
like, ugh.
Jesus, it was a lot. I am gonna say, it's really hard. Like I was kind of entertained. I just didn't think it didn't ground me in the personal stakes of it. Like I didn't really get on board with their
If you
relationship.
don't buy the relationship, which I did,
Right.
then it's kind of tough to care the rest of the movie.
That's what let this down for me. I didn't
Yeah.
buy the relationship. The visceral action, I was way on board for. I was like, holy shit, we have not seen this in a long time.
Yeah.
So I was like, great, perfect. Let's get into this. But it was more of a distraction for me rather than it being like an upside to the film.
It got to distraction point
Absolutely.
eventually when he's throwing the heads into the crowd. It's like, all right, dude.
Yeah. What
These
is
people
his
had
character?
nothing to do with this.
Complete. I said that to you.
It's like,
I was
why you they're all
Ugh.
wearing nice opera suits.
oh,
You just
I
got
love that.
blood. That's a dry cleaning bill,
Yeah.
dude. Come on. Have you
It's like-
seen prices to dry clean at Tux? I have.
I'm pretty sure it's a Robot Chicken sketch where it's like
Yeah.
all of the like villains. It's like a James Bond sketch, for example, and all of the villains are just like that's their day shift, and they're just
Yeah.
coming in for the shift. James Bond comes in and like murders them all, and they're like, "Where's Dave?" You know what I mean? It's like some of them probably don't know that they're working for this horribly evil dude. They're just taking on a security job, and they're getting fucking murdered.
And also, but they're also
sword.
kind of dumb. Like you've seen him not die like 5 times. I think it's
stop shooting.
You know, like there's not you can't be paid enough. There's no number.
Agreed.
There's no number. Once I see this guy pull a katana out of himself.
Well, money doesn't help when you're dead.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. It doesn't matter.
And I don't have
just
ego.
run.
When I see Constantine looking motherfucker pull a katana out of himself and stab my friend,
there's one route and there's one route only.
Yeah, it's exits.
Exactly.
We fly all towards the exits.
Shall we talk spoilers?
Through the gift shop.
Let's do it. It's the crow. He kills everyone. You kept alluding to a mid-movie twist, which was very interesting. So they changed
the fundamentals of it.
There's like a purgatory level to this, which you don't see in the first one, which is when Eric and Shelley die in the middle of the film. Eric goes to this type of purgatory place with his falafel stand dealer, who is really badly cast.
This guy literally could be like the soup Nazi.
It was so bad.
Like he could be the guy, like the food guy in Friends.
It could be anyone.
Like he deserves to be in a sitcom, not like the spiritual guide figure of this gnarly, grungy emo movie.
Right.
Like he needed to be way more sinister or way more like mysterious.
100%.
And instead I'm just like, when do I get my spicy falafel?
And he gives the speech around when something so horrible happens, one of the spirits can't make it back, sends the crow back. But the twist on that is it's only if their love is pure. And halfway through, Eric sees the video, which is the leverage Shelley has on said bad guy. It shows her getting the evilness whispered in her ear, which we'll talk about in a minute. And she murders someone rather than it being the bad guy. And Eric questions his love, so he gets sent back.
He simply questions, why didn't she tell me? Why would she do something like that?
Well, I mean, that's not a pure love, Dre.
I feel pretty pure. If you love someone purely, you want them to be honest about why they're murdering people.
Very true.
So to me, they lost me there.
Yes, agreed.
I was a bit frustrated with that.
He then decides to give up his own soul to save Shelley's.
Which I think should have just been the whole premise the whole time.
Probably.
I think you just skipped that part.
Way easier.
Just like, hey.
Well, they had to have him lose. They had to have him lose at one point so he could rise back up and have his John Wick moment.
We'll tie it to something else. I don't know.
Agreed. I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying that was the plot. Like, that's what happened. But
I mean, maybe like they kill the crow and he gets a second crow. They didn't even the crow was pretty useless. He just flew around.
It wasn't even anywhere near him for the final. When he was in the opera, there wasn't
the crow
like
his little like almost like warg. He could like see through its eyes in the other one.
Yeah, I think so.
No, we didn't get.
He was like, "Follow the crow, follow the crow."
We didn't get any of that.
We didn't get any of that. So interestingly, the twist around the bad guy in this is that he is supernaturally powered, and the goal is that he has sold his effective soul to Satan so that he can live forever by giving Satan other people's innocent souls.
They have to be innocent.
And he does that by whispering kind of hornily, a little kinky, into their ear.
It's kind of like gross.
Yeah, and then they go full zombie and like murder themselves or someone else. Like it brings out the darkest
It's
part
meant to
of
be
them.
like bring out the thing that you would like never really action, but like is in there somewhere.
Absolutely.
Which is an interesting concept.
I like
it as a concept. I don't know how well they implemented it.
I feel like that guy could have been more menacing.
I thought he was adequately Harvey Weinstein creepy.
He was that.
Yeah. Right?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Good job to you. I feel like, I'm not going to lie, like I like him as an actor. That's Danny Huston. Not comparing you, Danny Huston, to Harvey Weinstein. The acting choices you made
felt Harvey Weinstein.
Felt very Harvey Weinstein, and I like that a lot. It was like, you do this for me and you'll get what you want. You know what I mean? It felt very much like that. Very, and he had that young girl with him the whole time, and that didn't have any payoff.
Yeah, dude, and why that girl? Like, that's my point. Everyone's around him, and it's like, do they know about this? Do they not?
Yeah.
It was a little too vague. They needed more of a framework for his operations. You know,
he kept saying like, "I've been around thousands of years," just out loud to people, and I'm like,
well, like he mentioned, like I've seen so many players, and I don't know if he like named someone that was like in Mozart's era,
probably,
and I just didn't catch it. But
well, I mean, that's it. He was very nonchalant about the fact that he was fucking old.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like there were things about that didn't work for me. I feel like that could have been a creepier, older, more spindly character. Like just being more like, just lean into it, man. If he's a fucking old weirdo.
I don't know if it was his fault. I think it was the writing. They didn't give enough.
There's no good writing in this.
My point is like they didn't give that enough to play with.
Sure.
Like, you know, the whisper thing was cool the first 2 times. Then it's like, okay, well, we get it. Like, like what else? Like what drop?
What else you gonna go for?
How did you get this deal? what did you do?
Yeah.
Why are you interested in this other? Like, is there, like, I don't know, a little bit more.
There was a lot of threads that were left unearned with him. And I think the way he used his powers on Eric at the end, and then they both went through to Falafel Man's house, was...
The art design of, like, hell was kind of creepy.
Well, it was more purgatory than hell, I think.
But when they pull it down, it's like this crazy...
Right, so that's interesting.
That
So
gross.
in the TV show, this is... I don't know if this is part of my trivia truffles. I don't think it is. As part of the TV show that they did after they did the terrible sequels to The Crow, they introduced this idea of, like, snakes, which is like the opposite, the evil side of the crow. So like you've got the crow, which is like for the good guy, and a snake thing, which is for the bad guys, which is interesting.
Kind of like, I guess my point is like, he doesn't seem good.
He's definitely not
so
good.
It's like degrees of bad. Well, also like
shades of gray.
Also, like, I like the idea that he has to like sacrifice a part of his humanity in order to bring him back by doing these like grisly acts. Like, I do like that concept, and they toy with it, but he never. Like, I guess my point is there's never a point where it's morally vague. You're kind of like pretty okay with everyone he kills, minus the splattering in the opera.
Yeah.
Where he ruins a few suits.
It's interesting because at the final battle with the bad guy, it was kind of like the bad guy sort of infers that he's done so much that he can't be redeemed and his love is no longer pure. And then you get this scene where Bill Skarsgård's like, it's never not been pure. But you're like, that wasn't really built to in the plot. The plot didn't emphasize any of those things to make that impactful.
Yeah.
So it didn't work for me. That could have been a really cool moment.
Agreed.
And it wasn't because it wasn't indicated at any point in the fucking plot.
Yeah, agreed.
Do you have any other spoilers for this? Did anything else happen at you?
I don't think there's much. Like,
the way they die is gnarly. They get like full plastic bags over their head.
That was intense.
Twigs.
Like, that's my point. It was just like very like fucking in your face. Like, it was pretty.
It was definitely that. Yeah. There was a lot. It's more of a vibes movie, I think.
Yeah.
If you're into like, it was almost like action porn, like murder porn at times. I was like, if you're into massively grotesquely violent movies.
Here's what I'd say. It's a vibes movie the same way. It's a vibes movie the same way. What is it called? The Driver with Ryan Gosling?
Drive
is a vibes movie. It's just the vibes are different.
Okay.
It's like the Drive is kind of boring. It's just like, you know, really, really like
one of my all-time favorite movies.
Really, really just like synthy. What is it like? What's the tone? The color scheme that I'm looking to call
it's neon.
Neon-esque synthy, like washed out.
Like a A24.
Washed out like vibes. And then like a plot of like a guy who's like trying to help a girl. And that's it. There's nothing else to it. It's very simple. This is like that, but emo goth blood.
Okay.
Very two different movies,
yeah,
but very similar formula.
Sure. I see that. It's very boiled down to its bare bones, which, I mean, we said that all along. It was really.
Yeah.
Let's finish with some trivia, true or false, NDL.
Sounds
trivia,
good.
True, trivia, false. You happy with it?
I'm ready.
You better be, bitch.
Trivia,
true, false, DL. Ernie Hudson, who played Sergeant Albrecht in the 1994 adaptation, was asked to reprise his role in the movie, but declined, saying, sorry, but for me, the Crow is Brandon Lee.
True?
It's half true. So in an interview, he was asked whether he'd seen the trailer for the new Crow film, and he said the Crow was always Brandon Lee for me. So
I mean, fair enough.
He was never actually asked to return. It's a shame, really. Like, I feel like he could have been, you know, an aging cop. I mean, he kind of was in the first one. He was pretty old in 1994. So I'm like, oh, he could have been a really aging cop. I'm kind of glad it didn't have any callbacks to the original with like casting and stuff. You just clean cut that. You know what I mean? Like, don't even think, unless you bring back the guy with the luscious hair, because he could have been the bad guy in this again. Because he looks completely different now. He's the guy from what's the Jordan Peele movie we talked about? The one with the alien ship in the sky.
Nope.
Yes. Trivia, true, trivia, false, DL. The opening scene, which features a white horse injured by barbed wire, is a reference to the graphic novels. Is that true or is that false?
That is true.
It is true. In the graphic novels, Eric has visions of seeing a white horse running and getting stuck in barbed wire. Bit on the nose, you know. Like, I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of where his character's at.
Yeah.
And this is not very pure, though, at the beginning.
It was kind of a random thing to have in there. I was kind of just like, okay, whatever.
It was kind of implied that he killed his parents in the beginning as well.
Yeah, like he put them on fire. Like, there was a lot there that they didn't give you enough to like really know what they were trying to say.
Yeah, right.
It was like one scene where like the trailer's on fire.
Yeah,
like it was like,
where are we going with this?
Yeah.
Graphic designer DL
yes.
Nicolas Prage has mentioned that Bill Skarsgård actually hated the idea of the poem tattoo on his back. Is that true or is that false?
True.
Actually false. He actually came up with the idea. The poem is called Despair by H.P. Lovecraft, which,
Ooh, very fair for this movie.
Very on the nose for this movie. Yeah,
very,
so on the nose.
Not subtle, but...
Yeah. Finally, DL, trivia false. The movie, it's not done so great at the box office, let's be perfectly honest. And original The Crow 1994 director Alex Proyas posted on Old Person social media Facebook saying, I thought the remake was a cynical cash grab. Not much cash to grab, it seems.
Who said that?
The original director Alex Proyas.
I hope he said that. True.
He did say
that's
that.
Fire.
That's a real slap in the face comment, isn't it? That's like, shoot your shot, buddy. You got this. Ultimately, you're right. This is a vibe movie. Like, in the moment, I had a lot of fun with it, reflecting on it. The bare bones of it wasn't really enough to make it worth recommending for me, unless you really like violence porn.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like, it's okay. It's got some good bits and a lot of not so good bits.
Yeah,
I can't recommend it.
There's other shit on.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
I was very close to changing this week and going and watching something else.
Yeah.
There's other things on that I would have been like, I don't watch that. Yeah. There's a couple of stuff that had been out at the, I think it's the Melbourne Movie Festival, which are apparently really good. And I was like,
it's just a matter of like, we do this pod sometimes for the laughs.
For the cheap thrills, baby.
Yeah, not really.
Give us that engagement, baby. All right, DL, do you want to wrap up the show?
Yes, of course. Thank you, everybody. Check us out on thepodcastassemble@gmail.com. Hit us up, mailbag, we'll respond, or podcastassemble on Instagram. And if you could, give us a share, a subscribe, a review, whatever you will. A big thank you to Matthew Bliss for editing and mastering this week's episode. If you'd like Matt to be part of your podcasting team, get in touch with him on business@mbpod.com or head to mbpod.com and find out more about his services. If you want to hear his work, his hard-earned podcasting
work,
listen to Coffee with a Podcaster. Short thought pieces on topics of podcasting shared over a cup of joe.
Super wholesome.
Yeah. Until next time, Tommy, it's been real. This is one of the, hopefully not the last, but maybe one of the last on this side of the pond. We'll see.
Definitely on this side of the pond.
Yeah.
Tally-ho, baby.
Tally-ho.
Latest gators.